Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Winnie. Thank you very much to the organizers for this kind invitation to speak this morning. Now, I think Professor Capra has told us what we need to teach the students, or what they need to learn. Actually, the important word now is learn. What they need to learn to be 21st century nutritionists or dietitians. But so my presentation would be perhaps to try to give you some idea about the more effective ways by which 21st century learners will be able to absorb or maybe make better use of what we have to offer them. So I'll start the presentation by showing you a little video. Okay, it is called The Voice of the Active Learner, Education from a Digital Native's Perspective.
Do you recognize me? Very soon I will be your student. But I will not always sit in your classroom. I will not take out a pencil or open a textbook. You grew up with books. I read from a laptop, an iPad, a smartphone. I use a keyboard more than a pen. I'm a digital native, an active learner. Why carry just a textbook when my iPad connects me to the world? I want to know things all the time, and right away. Maybe the best place for cool shoes, or where to hike the Himalayas. To learn, I look online, because the classroom isn't enough for me. Not when I can see faces, hear voices, and chat with people on the other side of the world. I want to learn about Chinese history from someone in Beijing. My school has to keep up with me, not the other way around. I have more and more choices. When you were my age, no one had heard of charter school. No one could imagine a virtual school. But it's projected that by 2019, half of all high school courses will take place online. I use mobile devices to connect with friends, classmates, and teachers. And when I'm more connected, I'm more interested. I don't buy music at a store, or movies or books. I get them instantly online. And when they excite me, I share with friends. That's how I want my education to be. I need a degree even more than my parents. I know it, and so do my friends. Will I be prepared? Public grade schools are under huge budget pressures, and traditional college is increasingly unaffordable. I don't want crushing debt. If I can Google the best choice for choose, rest assured I'll be the best choice of education. Like 2-year institutions and online courses, where students like me have grown to 6 million strong. And when I'm older, I want to keep learning. Do you recognize me? Very soon, I will be changing the world. But I need you. If you're ready to help me, I'll find you. But it's your challenge to keep up with me. I'm a digital native, an active learner. Listen to me. Help me. Together, we can create the future.
Okay, now I hope that will stimulate some reflection and some thoughts. You see, one of the challenges that we face is that, well, looking around the audience, maybe it's not so evident, but I think a lot of the deans, the heads of departments, and those who actually make all the important decisions are actually 20th century learners trying to teach 20th.
So perhaps let me show you what a 20th century learner is. Now that's a picture of a typical 20th century learner. Now when he was in school, everything was taught again with chalk and board. He had to use something called log tables. I just some of you don't even know what a log table is. A slide rule. Now this is a slide rule. have you ever seen this? Maybe in a museum. And then to draw graphs, we use a flexi curve. I mean, nobody would even think about using a flexi curve. Then when I went to university, wow, technology changed. We actually had to use a mechanical calculator, and the epidiascope was the height of technology. And then when I did my postgraduate, I acquired an electronic calculator. That was fantastic. And I also got myself an electric typewriter because it was cheaper to type your own thesis than to hire the department secretary. Okay? And of course, we had lots of books and we had to read a lot of books. And we all sat in neat rows and listened to everything the teacher says. So that's a typical 20th century learner. But today's learner is a lot different from this. So we need to tailor our teaching and learning activities to suit the characteristics of the 21st century. So what I'm going to do now is to tell you some of the characteristics of 21st century learner, which I picked up from the internet, and then perhaps stimulate you to think of what can I do to keep my students engaged. Well, first thing is that the 21st century learner wants to have a say in their education, unlike us. So, and they will respond better to you if they have their voices heard. So when you're doing a curriculum review or even to make changes to your teaching learning activities, I would propose that you involve the students as well. Second thing that we need to realize is they often have a higher level of digital literacy than their parents or us, their teachers. And they actually don't know a world without computers. So again, just because we can't do something on a computer or on our mobile device doesn't mean that they can't do it. Now, they also expect transparency from their teachers and mentors. And I think they'll see right through you. In my days, when teachers say something, we take it as the gospel truth. Today, if you're not sure of your facts, I think you better admit it and say, I don't know. Because they will check it out on Google, and once they find that, you're not exactly telling them the truth, it'll be all over Facebook. So, and if you make a mistake, or you have messed up, quickly apologize. I think they are much more forgiving than you think they would be. Just don't try and cover up and hide things because they don't like it. And again, if you do that, it's all over Facebook. Now, even though it is important that we train them to be, job ready, so that they can go into a job. But actually, the young people today, they are not so much concerned about having a job, but about making a difference. Okay? It's nice that they will have a job, but they want to be in that job and still make a difference. So they are much more entrepreneurial than what we are. They are willing to take more risks. And perhaps they are more willing to set up consultancies, work for their own, and things like that. So think about that when you, what they call that, plan your teaching and learning activities. And they are much more creative than we were. So we need to tap on that creativity. you need to give them opportunities to create. So they actually balk at rote learning and memorizing. I think Sandra said this, I think one of the worst things, I think, in their lives is to have to sit in a lecture room and listen to lecture after lecture after lecture. I think it bores them to tears. Unlike us, because you see, I sat through many lectures and I didn't find that so difficult. But then I didn't grow up in a world of computers and have so much visual stimulation all the time. So please remember this. When you want to deliver a course, think about the 21st century learner. And they want to connect with others in real time and on their own terms, not terms that we dictate. So they are always on their phones, on their social media, and things like that. So they want to be connected, and so we should be actually using this trait to our advantage. So they are good collaborators, okay? Because they are always talking to their friends. So it all depends on the sort of activities we plan for them. So if you give them an activity that would require them to actually collaborate with friends, not only in their classroom, but with friends, say, in Queensland, with all over the world, I think they would find that very interesting. Then, of course, as we said just now, they collaborate amazingly well. I think they are better at doing things in teams than we were. The 20th century learner, I think, was essentially a very individualistic type of person. We'll go to the library, we sit ourselves down in one corner, and bring all the books, and then we'll read on our own. Whereas the 21st century learner is quite a different animal. They like to collaborate. They love teamwork. So give them more opportunities to work in teams. Okay? Then learning will be a lot more effective. And they can really multitask. Okay? I get very sort of like depressed when I have to give a lecture and I see half the class actually, doing something on their mobile devices, and I think, oh, they're not listening to me. But actually, I think they are, except that they can concentrate on many things at the same time. Unlike me, I can only do one thing at one time. But these people can listen to music in one ear, listen to a lecture on the other ear, and then email a friend at the same time. So I think do not be too depressed if you find that they are using their mobile devices when you are delivering your keynote address. Now, the other thing, because they grew up with computer games, so they have a very computer game-like approach to things. They always do a trial and error sort of thing because they want to reach the next level. And you see, we don't have to force them to try again when they are doing a computer game, right? They will go from level 1 to level 2, level 100, level 1000, and it is an intrinsic motivation. So can we tap on that kind of motivation to spur them to learn from one level to the next level to a higher level? But give them time. They need to experiment. They need to fail, but they will try and try again if the task is interesting and if the task
is challenging enough. Okay. Now, again, they would like to learn by doing, not by listening. And this actually fits in very well with what Sandra has said. Because here, we are more concerned about performance, Can they do it? It's not so much they know as you said, the latest theory on something, but can they do it? So, give them more chances to actually
do things during their learning in the curriculum. Okay. Now, they also, of course, have a can-do attitude. They don't know, things like, oh, it's too difficult. No. The more challenging it is, the more thrilled they are, and they want to do it. Of course, they can do everything. These are 21st century digital natives. Okay, so they don't be afraid of setting them very challenging tasks. Very often, I think, we tend to hold back because we judge our students based on our own capabilities. So I can't do that. It's difficult for me. So it must be even more difficult for the students. No, I don't think that's true anymore. We just got to accept that for many things, our students are just as smart as we are, or perhaps even smarter. And they like challenges. I mentioned that. So they need to be challenged all the time. So sitting in a lecture hall is not challenging. So that's why they become bored. Okay. And the other thing, which is also important now to be an effective healthcare professional, is this element of multiculturalism. And the 21st century learner, because of the way they have been exposed to the internet, they have more friends overseas than they ever had. So they are much more in tune with different cultures and different ethnic groups and things like that. And perhaps we should be also using this. For example, it would be very difficult for me when I was a student if I were to set a task and say that now, I want you to find out what Argentinian patients think about this, and that. If you set them that task, I think it will be it's not so challenging. They will find out, they will get friends from Argentina, they will have their own contacts, and they can come up and give you the answers. Okay? Now, that's the other thing that perhaps we have not been giving them the opportunities they like to create. So, one of the initiatives we discussed earlier this year in IMU is that we should now be moving towards co-creating with our students. So you involve them, let's say in a teaching learning activity, but you involve them by asking them to co-create, say, a video or an ad or something which can be used as a learning resource. So they learn from it, they find it challenging, and it also makes our lives a lot easier. Okay, so co-creation is something that I think we need to go into more and more with our students because they have the capability of doing it. And of course, we don't have to teach them anything about content. Content is no longer king. They know where to find information, and they probably find it faster than we can. So don't worry too much about content. Principles and things like that, yes, I think we still have to teach them, but content, again, as Sandra said, half of what you teach them today is going to be outdated in 5 years' time. So our emphasis on content should be reduced. What is more important is to teach them how to learn, where to find the information. Perhaps they already know that. But more importantly, how to judge the information, to distinguish between fake news and real news. That's important. I think that's our role. We play that role. They come to us with all sorts of new information they have found, and our role will be to help them see through the information, not actually to deliver the information. And then, of course, they like to work with other disciplines. And this is important in this new health systems that we have, where you need multi-professionalism and you need interprofessional learning. So, again, I don't think we are doing that to any great extent, primarily because, logistics, the difficulties about planning sessions, with students in another program. But if you were to use e-platforms and e-learning, you can actually overcome the problem of logistics, of time, of geographical distances, and things like that. So, these are some of the thoughts I would like to leave you with.
Now, many of us, not you lah. I think you all are probably less 20th century learner than I am. But some of us are 20th century learners who are 21st century teachers trying to teach 21st century learners. So we have a lot of preconceived ideas about what effective learning is all about. Because we went through it and we didn't turn out too badly. So we thought that, it's good enough for them. So we are too tied with our past experiences. So if we want to be effective teachers in the 21st century, we need to understand the 21st century.
And then we need to tailor our methods, our activities that meet the expectations of the 21st century learner. Now, I mentioned this. Our students are smarter than we think they are. And in fact, for certain things, they are a lot smarter than some of us. Okay? So, the question is, are we setting them tasks that are way below their intellectual capacity? And therefore, we are boring them to tears. And when they are bored, they don't do well. And then we say, oh, students are useless. They look at their marks. Well, whose fault is it? Is it their fault? Is it our fault? So, as I mentioned just now, just because I can't create an X, okay, don't ask me to create an X. I have no idea how to go about creating an X. Doesn't mean I cannot set an assignment for my students to create an X that will help, say, hypertensives in their diet. Sure, they can do it. And at the end of it, if it's really good, you can also make some money out of it. So, don't think that things are too difficult for them. Challenge them. Challenge them. So just because we can't do something doesn't mean our students can't do it as well. So I think we all need to reflect. We have set ways, so we need to unlearn, and now we need to relearn. some of us are too old. I mean, all the learning in the world is not going to, what do you call it, get me to a stage where I can create an apps. Definitely, maybe a small video I can do, but then apps, that's a bit too difficult. But for our students, I think it's a walk in the park. Okay, so I think that's all I have. And I hope that, this will set you thinking about the way that we are doing things. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think we had a very good discussion this morning. This morning we heard how Prof. Sandra talks about the curriculum. Now, Prof. Victor is telling us what to expect from the students. The floor is open for questions.
Yeah, Prof. I'm Naini from Unisa. I'm kind of interested in terms of, when you mentioned in terms of interdisciplinary. Can you just give an example? Because the thing is with Unisa, I'm from College Kanu, and our university focused on small classroom teaching. And in fact, I was from UKM before, where we can have 500 students, where you have a lot of interdiscipline in that sense. So you can, even from the first year, all of them are actually requested to take nutrition, for example. And there you can see a lot of discussion going on. But I'd just like to know, in terms of how do you go about getting this interdisciplinary, when you have medical students, and dietetic, pharmacy, because we did try previously in UKM, and it wasn't easy to match in terms of the curriculum, the year, etc. And you mentioned in terms of the e-platform, so how do we go about it? I just need to know.
Okay, now, well, this is the way I would approach it. I'm not sure whether it's the best way.
I would pick scenarios, actual scenarios in the clinical arena, real problems that needs to be solved through an interdisciplinary approach. Because you see, what we have been doing is largely, it's the same scenario. We give it to the medical students. They will try and solve it based on, only from their perspective. We give it to the nursing student will try to solve it based on the nursing perspective. We give it to the N&D students, and they will try and solve it through the N&D perspective. What I'm suggesting is we pick a scenario, and there are lots of scenarios now, because in modern medicine, in the current health system, you need interdisciplinary teamwork in order to solve a patient's problem. So that's how, then what you can do is then you can form interdisciplinary groups. Now that is where the challenge comes in. Or, you can't find a time that is suitable for everybody. You can't, it doesn't fit, because this one they learn in semester 5, this one they learn in semester 2, this one don't know what semester. And then, so you got all these challenges. But the thing is, you don't have to really worry too much about it if you give them tasks, which they can discuss and they can find the content. Because we are too hung up about content, Oh, can't give them this one because lecture for this has not yet been given. Forget about it. In fact, they will learn more by looking up information when they are doing the task, rather than what you can actually tell them in that 1 hour, which is so boring. So, to overcome the logistic things, they can always have an e-forum, but you find some time for them. It's always nice for them to get together face-to-face, learn, to recognize one another, make friends, and things like that. So, I think the challenge is not insurmountable. It's all, we are actually trapped by our own paradigms. So we got to really just forget about, certain so-called principles that we have been adhering to, throw it in the wind, and start afresh. Okay? You got to convince your dean and the head of department. Okay. Yes, that's right. That's right. That's right. Because we are 20th century learners. Huh? And we think that, oh, you know, the medical students will not want to work with the what? Because medical students are so snooty. They won't want to work with anybody. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. Huh? They have an entire different approach to life that we have. Huh? Mm.
I agree with you, Prof. Victor. When the need arises, they will know where to look for. Like our medical students in the final year, they start looking for a dietetic student when there's a problem they need to solve.
Yeah.
And you don't have to structure that, and it just happens on its own. Any other questions for Prof. Victor? If not, maybe one final question from me. Prof. Victor, you know, you talked about how we are the old school, and then we have to unlearn and then relearn. Personally, I think that's sometimes very difficult.
Yeah.
And because we have not been taught earlier, so do you have any tips for us to?
Well, I think it is a lot to do with our mindset, because I think in IMU we do give opportunities for the technology part. The technology part, we give a lot of e-learning experiences, and I think our good friend Hasnain is going to talk to you about this later. But we need to really change our mindset, have an open mind. Otherwise, whatever training in technology we have, we will not apply, because we just got to, we need to do a lot more reflection. And I think 20th century learning, we don't have that much opportunities to learn, to reflect. Whereas today, I think our students, we are giving them more and more opportunities to reflect. I think reflection is very important. We all need to reflect, and to ask ourselves, you know, how can we do better? Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Leslie, for